Well, he's done it again. President Joe Biden has had another gaffe. The 82-year-old president hosted the 2024 NBA champion Boston Celtics at the White House, and it appears that he needed help remembering who they were.
2024 NBA champions, the Bulls. You're Celtics, right?
The president was either not sure or he was attempting to make a joke, which was met with an awkward laugh from some in the crowd. But that wasn't the only joke he made.
I didn't know any of these guys behind me, but they just showed up. I don't know where the hell they came from.
We all know it wouldn't be the first time the president has forgotten who he was introducing.
Thank you, Boris. And I want to thank that fellow down under. Thank you very much, pal. Appreciate it, Mr. Prime Minister.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
Joe Biden only has 2 months left in power, which means we only have 2 more months of watching these cringe moments for the cameras. Later in the speech, Joe Biden also revealed his Secret Service code name.
Let me just say, all of you may not know this, but my Secret Service name is Celtic. For real. Because I'm Irish.
The Democrats are licking their wounds after Donald Trump's decisive election victory. Former New York State Senator and Democrat strategist David Carlucci joined Power Hour for his take on where they went wrong.
The issue here is that we got our message muffled. The Democrats are the party of the working class, middle class, and our message should always be about how we strengthen the middle class and how we grow it. And instead, there were so many different things from different fractions of the Democratic Party that I think got mixed up in the message. And Donald Trump was able to be clear. And even though we don't know how he's going to do it, he said things like he's going to lower inflation. He's going to cut our energy bills in half. Many of us don't believe it, but while he was able to fit his slogans on a bumper sticker, Democrats were busy explaining and talking about how the Biden administration did well on many different things, but Americans just didn't feel it. So I think it's a matter of the message just not being concise and not really being where the American voters are right now.
Look, it's argued that the Democrats didn't have a strong candidate in Kamala Harris. This is an old clip, but I suspect it has something to do with why many voters didn't want to support her.
We have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.
Look, Argentina's President Javier Milei argues that one of the reasons Trump was so successful is because he's against woke politics. And we saw Kamala Harris choose Tim Walz as her running mate, who is even further to the left with his track record. MSNBC has published an article arguing that the narrative that woke politics is why Trump won is nonsense. But what's your assessment? In my view, the Democrats moved far too far to the left and really abandoned the centre.
Well, I think that's part of it, right? I think that if you heard Kamala Harris on the campaign trail, she didn't talk about the wokeism, right? But she had this record from a few years back, and a lot of Democrats were just painted with this broad brush of making woke the top priority. And I think that idea that we always have to be politically correct and can't have an honest, forthcoming conversation without announcing your pronouns and all of that is something that is not effective when you're trying to expand the party. And I think for too long, Democrats have worried about sanitizing the party or purifying the party instead of expanding the party. And that's where we have to get out of the echo chamber in who we're talking to, just talking to ourselves and saying all the great things we want to do. Yes, there's many things that we want to accomplish, but we have to stay focused like a laser on the top issues of the day. And those are bread and butter issues, right? Those are the economic issues. And every time we stray away from that economic message, we lose. And it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, I know, but there's a lot of different things going on here. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily Kamala Harris. It's just the message was muffled, and Donald Trump had that clear message, and we had this extreme wokeism as an anchor around our neck. even though it's not the majority of our party, I think we were painted with a broad brush of the extremes of our party. And we've got to do a better job of talking about how we're a big tent with a lot of different priorities, but our main priority is growing the middle class and making sure people have a pathway into the middle class and beyond.
The Harris campaign is seeing growing scrutiny over its spending strategy. The Harris campaign went through more than $1 billion in spending. There are reports that the campaign is at $20 million in debt. Of course, with the benefit of hindsight, where did they go wrong with spending? Was there too much focus on celebrities? What should they do differently?
Well, it's really hard to say without seeing where all this money went exactly. And it's hard because in a campaign, you throw everything against the wall because you never know exactly what strategy, what tactic actually worked. So you can never say that for sure. So you try everything. And the Kamala Harris campaign, they had the benefit of raising a ton of money. And they had that advantage throughout the campaign. And I think sometimes when you have that advantage, you rest on your laurels, you maybe overspend. And it looks like that might have been what happened. But overall, I don't think this is too damaging of an issue. It's a small amount of money compared to the amount of money that was spent, and they'll easily be able to make that up. But I think what they need to do, and the whole Democratic Party has to look carefully at what do we think worked, what didn't, and where should we be investing our money. But most importantly, it's always message over money. We have to refine that message just like we're sharpening the tip of an arrow, because it'll be easier to penetrate if we have that sharp message. It doesn't matter how much money you spend. You could beat people over the head with it, but if it's not resonating, if it doesn't make sense, it's not going to work with all the money in the world. So that's where we got to get down to the basics and talk about our true north, which is growing the middle class and expanding our economy.
I'd argue it's not a small amount of money. It's still $20 million in debt. It's
yeah, but compared to $1 billion spent, I mean, that's
yeah,
comparatively.
exactly. You've got $1 billion.
Right,
what's another 20 million? I don't know how well that would go down with Democrat donors. But look, talk to us about the future for the Democratic Party. A new poll shows that Kamala Harris is still the top choice to be the party's nominee for the 2028 presidential election, with 41% of likely Democratic voters reporting that they think she should run again. Would she be your top choice?
Well, hey, look, Kamala Harris ran an excellent campaign, and myself and many people, like you saw in that poll, are happy with Kamala Harris and would love her to be our president. So if the election was today, of course, we would love Kamala Harris to be president. But 4 years is an eternity in politics. And I think we'll have people rising up that we're not even talking about right now. And I hope that is the case. We need to be the party of change. We can't be constantly just protecting the status quo. We need to defend the institutions that work, but always strive to make them better. And we need to be expanding our party and looking for a new generation of leaders. We have that opportunity now. We're going to have the election of a new Democratic National Committee chairperson. The whole administration is turning over, as we all know. So it's time for, I think, some new voices to rise up. But if we're having this conversation in 3 years from now, and Kamala is top of the ticket, that wouldn't be, I wouldn't be upset with that. But I think many things can happen from now until then. So I wouldn't put much stake into a poll that's done, just a couple weeks after the election. But it does show, I think, that Democrats are proud of Kamala Harris. She did run a good campaign. She only had a few months to do it. She raised the money. She went to places she needed to go. But overall, I think our message has to be refined. And a candidate like Kamala Harris with that refined message, I think, can win in the future.
Okay, good luck to her refining that message. I don't think she'll be able to do it, but we'll see. Donald Trump has announced that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will lead DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. CNN is reporting today that they're expected to make a push for an end to remote work across federal agencies, which could actually push federal workers to quit. Is that what you're expecting to see?
Well, not necessarily that people would quit. Maybe they will have some people that say, hey, this isn't for me, and they got used to living remotely. But we got to make sure this makes sense. If the idea is just to have people quit, this is not the way to do it. we know that remote work can be beneficial in some cases. So the fear that I have with this new department, if you will, is that they're coming in with an axe, right, with a sledgehammer, and they're just bashing everything that we have here, and that's not really the way to do it. I know people are frustrated with certain departments and certain programs, but I think we need to take more of a skilled approach and attack it with a scalpel and not an axe, because many people do benefit from these programs, and we've seen that. But just to say, hey, we're going to go in like a bull in a china shop, I think can have undue consequences that could be very negative in the immediate and long-term future. So if they told me why exactly they were doing this policy and they could explain that, I'd be happy to listen. Look, we know Elon Musk is a very smart person, so I'm not going to question that. But some of these tactics and these motives behind some of these policies are really questionable, and that's what we have to look towards. So this blanket of push, one size fits all, usually is not a recipe for success anywhere you slice it, but particularly when we're dealing with government.
Well, I think the reason why is to make the government more efficient. Do you see a problem with that?
Well, yeah, if we're trying to make government more efficient, why would we have one size fits all? There could be some circumstances where someone working remotely means we get the best talent, we get the best work going into the products that we want and services that our federal government is providing. So when we talk about efficiency, that's what I want to see: efficiency, not just causing policies because it causes hardship on some employees. That's the way it's being promoted to me right now. So when I look at that, I say this isn't about efficiency. This is just about proving something, proving a motive, and trying to get people to quit or something like that. But we should really be looking at efficiencies. And is there work to do? Absolutely. And that's why, hey, I'm glad Elon Musk will be in that position. But so far, I haven't seen things that I'm too excited about. But hopefully they will bring efficiencies and make our government work even more effectively. But that's why I say a one-size-fits-all policy is rarely a strategy that works.
I suppose the plan that I understand is it's to slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and given that the federal government hasn't balanced its books in decades and the budget deficit just keeps growing and adding to the national debt, they've got to try something different.
Oh, sure. And I think, Donald Trump obviously needs that. I mean, he pushed our debt, trillions of dollars into debt when he was president. So hopefully there'll be some accountability and won't have this excess spending. And yes, some regulations need to be updated. There's no question about that. But to say every regulation must go and every employee needs to be fired, I mean, that's just something
they haven't said every
that is
employee
for a bumper
needs to be
sticker.
fired.
No, but I mean, this is what I'm getting at, that if it fits on a bumper sticker, their policy, they're in favor of it. But that's where we need a more detailed approach. And it's hard to say something's good or bad, just from a headline. But that's where I get some intrepidation when I hear about these like one size fit all policies about we're just going to end remote work. Remote work has worked to many people's benefit, many companies' benefits, and particularly governments around the country. So just to end it in one foul swoop, I think could be problematic.
Okay, look, it's going to be a really interesting 4 years ahead. What are you expecting
sure.
Over the next 4 years? And also, what prediction can you give us? What does the future of the Democrats look like?
Well, I think Republicans have hit a high water mark, right? They have the president, they have Congress, they have the Senate. And in New York, where I am, we actually picked up 3 congressional seats in the House of Representatives. So there were some bright spots. I don't want to sugarcoat it and say that Democrats don't have their work cut out for them, but I think Republicans do as well. And traditionally, when we head into the midterms in 2 years, that's when the president's party does very poorly. And from the looks of it right now, Donald Trump has put out already some very controversial cabinet picks and is off to the races in terms of, getting people upset and riled up. And we'll see if he's able to deliver on the promises that he put forward. But that's why I think that he overpromised and probably will underdeliver. I hope he can deliver on some of these promises, like cutting our energy bill in half and ending inflation. But I just don't see it being realistic because I haven't seen a plan put forth. But that's why I say I think Republicans have hit a high watermark, and Democrats, if we tighten our ship and stay focused, we can win back the House, the Senate, and onto the White House in 4 years from now.
David Carlucci, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour.
Great to be with you. Thank you.